Hello, Ivy here. This podcast is about how the British royal family alienated the younger generation and are now left with a dying demographic. It is important for a nation to realise that demographic changes affect all areas of human activity: economic, social, cultural and political. All forward-thinking businesses research, develop and build their business plans based essentially on those four areas listed above. Any business that plans activities outside those areas is destined to fail at some point in the future. Not everything can be predicted, but most things can be if policymakers and strategy specialists follow and interpret trends in each of those areas. Where things happen that could not be foreseen, then the ability and speed of flexibility comes into play. The British royal family refers to itself as the firm, not a family, yet it does not operate in any shape or form like a well-run business. Times have changed, and businesses that remain in business by loyal customers or who remain in a time warp together are becoming few and far between. The businesses that have survived and who will be able to somehow hold on to some aspect of their operations in the current global COVID-19 pandemic, and who recognise the need for completely new ways of working and delivering a service, are the ones who are the most likely to be successful, no matter what. There is an increased role for support services, background teams such as human resources, finance departments, strategy and policy teams, etc., who are almost having to design and develop new ways of preparing and delivering training for new skill sets alongside new recruitment practices to succession plans for a workforce that is ageing, and educational institutions and professional bodies, in some areas, playing catch-up. There are training programs and professional qualifications not quite in sync with the skill sets and knowledge and way of working that is required now and will be most likely evolve over the next few years, if not decades. Those who can adapt and keep their eyes on trends emerging are likely to be the ones still standing in years to come. Important for people to recognise leading and lagging indicators here. For example, professional bodies amending professional requirements for various professional development required. Standards can't be developed overnight. Professional qualifications take time and experience to reach the minimum standards. Therefore, some of the things introduced into policies now may not produce the results until a few years down the line. The important thing to note is that successful organisations will be able to demonstrate they are aware of the future risks to service delivery and have built-in mechanisms to prepare the workforce through policy and strategies. Now, when we look at the British royal family and its notion of being a firm, many things fall short in terms of adapting and staying alongside, if not ahead, of the changes. One of the main stumbling blocks on such an entity is that the members of the firm, i.e. the notional workforce, are family members who are given roles which have nothing to do with competency or ability to acquire knowledge, but merely on the order of birth from a parent who is also judged by the position in the line of succession. Activity has never been measured or scrutinised in any way, and quality is therefore always described in glowing terms, despite the fact that no meaningful measure is ever applied. The figures shown every year next to the various patronages are meant to give the impression of increase in income from being a patronage of the royal family. And each year this index is proudly quoted in terms of number of visits, ribbon cutting, waving, etc., and the income that flowed in as a result. The reality is that those figures are estimates of what will likely be earned in that year when the calculations are made. No explanation is ever given about how those figures are arrived at, and at what point do the actual earnings ever appear. Unlike businesses in the real world, they have the pressure of providing detailed figures to a variety of bodies, including for tax purposes. If those businesses cannot trade because of something like a global pandemic, then the bottom line is that less income is generated, and staff are put on reduced hours or lose their job completely. No monarchy has that issue to worry about. So the game of let's play diplomat or let's play business executive, etc., does not really cause any of the said family to lose any sleep about what is happening in the world. Matters that occupy the minds of ordinary people do not occupy the same percentage of space in the minds of some groups in society, the monarchy being one. Life will continue along at the pace and style that royal families around the world wish, and as long as they show a modicum of interest and empathy with the woes of their respective countries, things have worked out for a few. There are a few monarchs who are beginning to realise that they will need to adapt on a large scale if they wish to survive a little longer. As I firmly believe, over the next few decades, all will be gone from the global map. In the case of the British royal family, their methods have served them well up to now. But once there is an element of independent thought and a real awareness and knowledge of some of the hardships being experienced in the world, no institution can continue blindly carrying on with their traditions and practices as if somehow to carry on and not acknowledge world events that impact their own nation as well as on a wider scale, is the way to portray the British stiff upper lip to the global and national audience. One can only assume, because there is no stress of food shortage or loss of home due to loss of income, or a danger that the business may fold, then the part of the demographic data that is crucial in workforce development and planning may not seem important to the firm. Looking at the age profile of the British royal family and the lack of acceptance of the only person of colour into the firm, combined with the clear void of any meaningful business or financial planning, suggests that the British royal family is in serious trouble. When most of the workforce of any organisation is of pensionable age, and the handful of younger working members have never been encouraged or trained to actually be competent in any aspect of the business world, then to my mind the cracks are there in the royal family, but not visible yet unless one knows what to look for. Courtiers and advisors to the British royal family are the same pensionable age bracket as the people they are advising. Most have limited knowledge of life in the corporate world, where they have had to experience real performance management, where their role depended on the results, or for that matter, public relations, it seems. I see trouble ahead. The UK Royal Rota gossipers, they are not journalists, and they are as distant from performance management as they are right-wing, through its publications like to continuously state that the Queen has reigned for 65 years plus or thereabout. This is not a good thing for any business. No problem for a family who can provide support and love and care for their aged relatives when most, if not all, working age adults are actually working. However, in the case of the royal family, having a token leader who's almost a century old and the next in line around 30 years younger would have been ringing alarm bells in sane people's minds decades ago. I have no idea if the Queen was ever competent in her role, as no measures have ever been done. History books can state how long she reigned and did a few tasks connected to motor cars in wartime. The current Prince of Wales can show outcomes of projects making a difference and continue to be successful. The ongoing initiatives are few and far between, and the general theme appears to have been projects focused on subjects that the Prince had a particular interest in, not necessarily societal needs as a whole. Nevertheless, the Prince of Wales did not just sit around. He attempted to create something which would always be synonymous with his name. Benefits to a wider society are limited, hidden behind the facade that those things are for government officials to do, not a member of the royal family. We then come to the next in line of succession. Approximate 40-year gap between him and his father, the Prince of Wales. Duke of Cambridge has no projects that he set up from scratch. No measures of performance can be allotted to his name other than the number of times he has been photographed and filmed on what are described as work engagements. The Duchess of Cambridge has even less than her husband. The excuses given by the Royal Rota is that they are on a different path to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, and their activities cannot be measured in that way. Let's not forget that when projects and initiatives are looked at in terms of outputs and funds raised, and the community groups and businesses involved can show clear benefits to the customers, all of such projects have been created by the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Individual projects as well as joint initiatives. The Sussexes were too popular and successful for the royal family to live with, and ensured that life became intolerable and dangerous for the Sussexes to remain in the UK. The spotlight is now well and truly on the British royal family, and they are wilting under the gaze. Karma. It is as clear as crystal that the Queen will not be able to even function as a figurehead of the royal family for much longer. Enter the next in line, who is aged 70 plus, and by all accounts does not look healthy. Let's just assume the next king will reign into his 90 plus years. The next in line will be the age of his father was when he becomes monarch, i.e. 60 plus. The Duke of Cambridge has no one currently with the skill set to create and deliver sustainable projects. The advisors in use for the last few decades also live in a protected bubble. The future certainly does not look bright. The Cambridge children may be prepared for duty from an early age. And I do not mean waving and smiling and turning up for photo ops which ensure that at least one person of colour is present. That's the current approach. Survival of the British royal family relies on the slaves in an opulent setting still to be in play. In other words, it is assumed that the oldest child will just assume he will be king one day, and no consideration will be given as to whether he is competent to do so, or whether in fact he wishes to do so. We all know how the spares in the royal family are treated, and the fact that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are still standing and breathing and free from the slave regime is down to their personal skill set and wish to be of service to the vulnerable, alongside the miracle that is Sussex Squad. Sussex Squad is not a fan base. It is way beyond that description. Sussex Squad is a global support network, here to challenge lies and deception and propaganda from the royal family and associates. I sincerely hope that the Cambridge children look to history and see what their Uncle Harry and his wife Meghan did to escape from the opulent slavery setting, and will do the same. I actually hope that the monarchy comes to an end before then, but if all else fails to guide the UK population to really question the need and purpose of this archaic institution, the escape of the Cambridge children, described as spares, will ensure the gravy train ends for good. The UK monarchy has its support base mainly in the age group similar to themselves, and there are far less of those in the Cambridge age group. The numbers that used to appear on their social media platforms were in the main haters of the Sussexes, not supporters of the wider royal family, and the rest were Autobot accounts, which has been proved by independent research and reported on in the USA Quality Press. Now the Sussexes have gone and taken their support base with them. The shortfall in interest and income is already being noticed. I predict it will not improve enough to justify future decades of a UK monarchy. The royal family have failed to recognise the demographic change has an impact on them too. They have relied on royal rota's spin that they are adored and will be fine, and that the institution is safe. The UK likes all the pomp and ceremony, etc. People suffering job losses and poor nutrition in what is meant to be a successful country is not a good look, and ensures that most of those people cannot and will not identify with the opulence of palace living. Young people have uncertain futures in terms of prosperity, and being free to do and plan things like their parents did in their younger years. People of colour have seen how the royal family, supported by the establishment, treated Duchess Meghan when she entered the family, and how short her time there actually lasted, despite the clear popularity and successes of all projects and tasks undertaken. Those actions all came to a head in the Commonwealth Service on the 9th of March 2020, where in a final stroke, people of colour here in the UK and within the Commonwealth, and then globally, had the alienation confirmed. The UK cannot come back from that, and certainly not as long as the royal family exist. Increasing societal groups feel alienated from the opulence that is constantly in our media reports, as well as negative reports when people of colour are seen with opulence, and on many occasions are seen as helping those who are less fortunate. It seems very selective as to who the UK is comfortable with having a luxury lifestyle. The British royal family have alienated so much of our society, and their support base matches the current age profiles of the family itself. There will be trouble ahead. Meanwhile, Sussex supporters have all moved, virtually and otherwise, to Montecito. We are not royalists, so any attempts to ride the Sussex wave will be removed. Learning point. All those the UK royal family have alienated will prove to be one of the largest mistakes the family and its advisors and associates have made, and it will be depicted in the history books. Sussex supporters left with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. None are focused on or interested in the day-to-day activity of the British royal family. The spotlight is all theirs. As an add-on to this podcast, I would say it's not essential, but it may be interesting for some of you. There is an attached paper containing details of 10 monarchy families whose reign came to an end, and a summary of the reasons why it happened. I think it's safe to say you will be able to see some similar themes in the UK emerging right now as we speak. That's all for now. Another podcast, hopefully, that you find interesting, and produces lots of debate. Speak to you all soon. Bye from Ivy. Bye.